In Lucha Underground, Season 2, Episode 3, The Hunt is On. We see some new faces, and we also get a dose of sleaze. Alright, so Episode 3, The Hunt is On, kicks off with a debut. We have Bengala versus Cobra Moon. Cobra Moon got the introduction to her last week, actually, in that little promo they did of her. And, besides her kind of like her street look, we really had no clue who she was. Well, just her entrance down to the ring brought a whole new dimension. Completely blew my mind on who this Cobra Moon is. And she is, in my opinion, going to make a big impact on Lucha Underground, as far as female wrestlers. And she went up against, a cat. No. Well, Bengala's a male, so that right there says something about her. And according to Vampiro, she is a descendant from one of the 7 ancient Aztec tribes. And seeing as she's from the Serpent tribe, said that that tribe is just straight up evil. And, she did a lot of slithering into the ring, a very, I don't know how to describe it other than that, very, very, very sensual, very sexy, but her moves in the ring were pretty fierce. And even though Bengala, I think he really underestimated her completely. And she took him out with a snake sleeper. And before he passed out, he tapped out. So Cobra Moon gets a debut and a win on this Episode 3. Next we get Phoenix coming into Katrina's office. And Katrina, throughout this whole episode, just blew me away as far as another, another female on the show that just is great to watch. Just what lines she had and how they portrayed her. It's like, she's like that sexy boss you just gotta stay away from. She's just trouble. Phoenix comes in the office and he says that he wants Cuerno, and so later she sets up a last luchador standing match between the two of them. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't end up being a match for the title, even though, you'd think, okay, someone loses a title, they get a rematch, they get a chance to get it back, most of the time. In this case, Phoenix didn't. He basically had to earn that chance, but we'll get more to that later. Next, we have a really interesting little promo with Aerostar, and it says, what does it start out saying? It shows like some ancient Aztec Indian, and they're around a fire, and the child is done up in the Aztec stuff too, and the kid's like drawing in the dirt different figures and symbols, and they're talking about how the 7 tribes are at war, and many lives will be lost. And an Aerostar comes into the picture. So it's weird. You got the Aztec guy, and then you got Aerostar, who looks like he's his modern, how to describe it, the modern luchador look, also with a outer space look to him, because he can fly, just like Drago can, So it's weird seeing those two together, but it was cool nonetheless. And it goes on to talk about how the gods are going to come in form of a man, and Aerostar then says something to the effect of, "Well, then I must go there." And so this happened like a long time ago, and now it's present day. It's all to do with the 7 ancient tribes. So it's a little hard to follow, but nonetheless it was really cool. So then we get a vignette of Cuerno working out, and all of a sudden Katrina appears out of nowhere, and she informs him of the last luchador standing match, and Cuerno or Katrina is like, this time you need to kill that bird and make sure that bird isn't around anymore. Well, make sure the phoenix doesn't fly again. Something to that effect. Yeah, so that was cool. And next we have a match between Jack Evans and Drago. And these two, oh man, they just knocked it out of the park. Great Lucha Libre style match. Jack Evans ends up winning this match, and with a little cheat to win. Not I guess a cheat is a cheat. He had his foot on the ropes for like a half a second. So you could say, yeah, he cheated to win, but he beat him. He beat him with an interesting pin. And then he grabs a mic and jumps up on the desk where Vampiro and Matt Stryker do their announcing and or commentating, excuse me, and he says, "I'm Jack," and then stops, and he's like, "No, there's more to that. Wait, I'm Jack, the Dragon Slayer Evans." And oh man, the crowd just went nuts on that one. They hated him, booed him out of the building. I love Jack Evans, very, very cocky, but hey, he backs up his stuff. He's really good. He's one of the best ones in there. I'm glad he's part of this brand. So we'll see who he slays next. But I don't think this feud between Jack Evans and Drago is going to be done anytime soon. In fact, I think we're going to see Jack Evans and the Darewolf soon, like we saw in the season 2 trailer. So I got a feeling that's coming around the corner soon. Next, they do a little promo on Tejano and saying how he's gonna return next week. And yeah, it'll be good to see him. He's I'd say he's one of the more interesting guys from last season to watch. Certainly was great to see him come in with Alberto Del Rio, but obviously, Rio's not around anymore. So, they're going to have him probably continue his feud with Chavo, something like that. Next, we get another Katrina promo with Puma. And Puma is... he's looking in the mirror, and he's kissing his cross. And Katrina, once again, appears out of nowhere, and, who do you pray to? And then goes on this spiel about how when they finished off Conan, he said he was sorry. He said, was he, saying he's sorry to God or to you for failing you so miserably? And that just got under Puma's skin bad. And then he's like, and she goes on to tell him that she's gonna face, or that Prince Puma is gonna face Pentagon Jr. next week. So, yeah, this is going to get more interesting. And this is also going to be interesting to see the reaction of Vampiro when Pentagon Jr. shows up next. I think this is a thing that's going to progress throughout the season, like that first episode when Pentagon Jr. showed up, and then the second episode where they had that tag match, and Vampiro started, kind of freaking out, like didn't want to really have anything to do with anything once Pentagon Jr. was out there. Made him real uncomfortable. And, this Matt Stryker would put him on the spot and ask him about it, and he didn't like that. So, we'll see what happens next week when he shows up and these two face off. It's going to be, the match is going to be great, and it'll be interesting to watch Vampiro's reaction. Next we get, is it the match? Yeah. Phoenix versus, it's the headlining match, excuse me. Like I said, it's not for the Gift of the Gods Championship. It's a last luchador standing match between Phoenix and King Cuerno. This was a pretty stripped down match. There wasn't a lot of, usually when you see like a last man standing, you see a lot of weapons used, and there was hardly any used in this. It was really stripped down, just a lot of really good wrestling, and great moves against each other. The only thing we saw as far as weapons was the use of the ladder and the use of the table at the very end, which Cuerno ended up going through. Excuse me. And great match between these two. Phoenix ended up winning. Got the 10 count on him. And that last move was great. How he, was trying to chase him up the ladder to get to the top of. That looked like it was Katrina's office. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then that was the final thing where he, shoved them off and ended up landing perfectly on that. Went through the table, and that was it. That was it for Cuerno. Last, we have a segment. We see a segment that ends the show. We see a female walking down the hallway to an office, and this is something like really out of the blue in this series. Something that's really going to change this series for the rest of season 2, and maybe even into season 3. It's like a police office or like an FBI office, something like that. This woman that sits down is Captain Vasquez, and it's her office, and sitting across from her is Cortez Castro, one of the guys from the crew. Except she doesn't call him that. She calls him Officer Reyes, which is interesting because Reyes is his real name. So, He she's like, what do you have for me? And he's like, well, I got pictures, and I'm getting really close to this guy and this guy, and she's like, she's like, I don't want to hear about that, and so she's complaining to him that he's like not doing his job well enough or something to that effect, and they're trying to bust Dario Cueto, and he's like, well, I wanted to bring him in right after he had his brother kill Bale, which is very interesting. So it's like he was there, and he's like, well, she's like, well, I gotta bring in someone else to help you, and here's the sleaze I was talking about. In walks Joey Ryan, or Officer Joey Ryan. So that was really funny to see him walk in his shirt and tie with a sucker and the I don't know, the sheriff shades. That was really funny to see, and she's like, just pretend you don't know each other when you get to the temple. She's like, in fact, pretend you hate each other. Hey, Castro's, or Officer Reyes, whatever you want to call him, he's like, oh, that won't be hard. So these two are going to end up being at odds all season. I can see it now. It's going to be funny. I mean, when Joey Ryan shows up in the temple, he's going to look like Joey Ryan. He's going to, look how he always looks in, other companies he wrestles for. But the side character, the background to him is going to be even more funny. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting going forward with these characters and this whole new storyline of how Castro actually is an undercover guy trying to bring down Dario Cueto. Can't wait to see where this goes. That's it for this one. Can't wait to see what happens next week. Thanks for watching.